Few things awaken such primal fear as the metallic groan of a ship being swallowed by the ocean. My name is Arthinox, and this is Cloaked Mysteries, the channel where history dissolves into darkness, and the sea reveals what time tried to drown. Today, we will resurrect a tragedy the world tried to forget. A disaster as terrible as the Titanic but silenced by human hands. This is the story of the Lusitania, the ship that claimed nearly 1,000 lives and changed the course of war. At the dawn of the 20th century, the world was still mourning the victims of the Titanic. But while everyone stared at the ice, another shadow was rising from the depths. Just 3 years later, another giant of the sea would be devoured not by an iceberg, but by human decision. Two disasters, nearly identical in number, yet opposite in nature, one born of nature itself, the other born of man. And what's most haunting is that even now, the Lusitania still seems to beg to be remembered. The Titanic was a victim of cold, of chance, of blind faith in progress. The Lusitania, however, was a victim of arrogance, of strategy, and of the hidden hand of war. One sank under the weight of ice, the other burned beneath the fire of conflict. Both represented the pinnacle of human engineering and the limit of human pride. But the Lusitania's fate would prove even crueler because its enemy was waiting. By 1915, the world was no longer the same. The ocean had become an invisible battlefield, where even civilian ships could turn into targets. Between the waves, iron beasts crawled in silence, armed with torpedoes and orders to destroy. And in the middle of this, the Lusitania left New York radiant, confident, with music and champagne. No one on board imagined they were sailing toward their final sunset. William Turner was a respected man, forged by decades at sea. He had testified against the Titanic's captain, criticizing his recklessness, unaware that the same ocean was waiting for him. Turner believed in caution, in discipline, and in his own luck. But no compass points toward destiny. The captain's fate had already been written long before he set sail. While the world watched Europe burn, Turner prepared his ship with precision. The Lusitania had a reinforced hull, sealed compartments, and dozens of extra lifeboats. It was fast, luxurious, considered unsinkable. But no layer of steel could protect it from the darkness lurking beneath the Atlantic. Because the real danger was not in the sea, it was in mankind. Over 2,000 passengers boarded with hope. Families, artists, businessmen, sailors, all believing in the promise of safe passage. As the orchestra played, few noticed the warning published in American newspapers by the German embassy. A cold reminder any ship flying the British flag would be considered an enemy. But human arrogance always shouts louder than reason. The same day the Lusitania left port, a German submarine slipped quietly into the Atlantic. It was the U-20, commanded by a 30-year-old officer named Walter Schwieger. His vessel was a coffin of steel, foul-smelling, claustrophobic, lethal. Men slept beside torpedoes, their breath mingling with diesel and fear. Yet to the German Empire, that coffin was a perfect weapon. The U-20 hunted the sea like a predator. It sank freighters, intercepted civilian ships, and left trails of smoke and oil drifting on the waves. Schwieger followed simple orders: destroy everything that could aid the enemy. There was no compassion, only efficiency. And with every attack, the young commander became a legend of terror. Beneath the waves, silence reigned. The sound of the engines was muffled, only the pulse of fear remained. The U-20 had nearly exhausted its supply of torpedoes when Schwieger spotted something enormous. A colossal vessel, gleaming in the distance, sailing alone, as if the world were still at peace. The Lusitania had entered the crosshairs. Morning, May 7, 1915. The sea was calm. The sun painted the coast of Ireland in gold. Passengers laughed, took photos, wrote letters. But Captain Turner felt something different, a silent unease that made him scan the horizon. He ordered the curtains closed, the life belts distributed. Yet the danger was already watching from beneath the surface. Schwieger adjusted the periscope and saw the massive ship glide past. The Lusitania moved slowly, almost tauntingly. The commander hesitated for a few seconds, then gave the order. A torpedo left the chamber, slicing through the water like a serpent of steel. 40 seconds until impact. On deck, Some passengers saw the white trail and laughed, thinking it a prank. Others pointed until the world exploded. The side of the ship was ripped apart, metal and bodies thrown into the air. And before anyone could understand, a second explosion shook the sea itself. The sound was heard miles away, echoing across the Irish coast. Chaos consumed the ship. The captain shouted orders that no one could obey. The controls were dead. Lifeboats snapped, fell, capsized. People clung to anything that floated: trunks, chairs, corpses. And the iron giant began to lean, as if the ocean were whispering its name. In just 18 minutes, the Lusitania was gone. The clock read 2:28 p.m. Her bow struck the seafloor while her stern still pointed toward the sky. Above, hundreds of souls struggled in 50 waters. And with every passing second, hope froze into silence. Out of more than 2,000 aboard, 1,197 vanished beneath the waves. Some froze to death, others simply disappeared. Survivors floated among debris, music, and fading screams. And as the ship descended, the sea returned to stillness. The surface sealed itself as if nothing had ever happened. The world was stunned. How could a civilian liner be destroyed with such cruelty? Germany claimed the Lusitania had been carrying hidden munitions. Britain denied it, but the wreck would one day reveal its secrets. The truth, as always, sank with the ship. The attack shifted the tide of the First World War. Public outrage in America turned against the German Empire. The sea had become an invisible courtroom, and every torpedo, a verdict. The name Lusitania would forever stand as a warning, not a triumph. Because the ocean never forgets the blood it swallows. Captain Turner survived, but never forgave himself. He was tried and cleared, yet his career ended in silence. As for Walter Schwieger, the man who fired the fatal shot, his fate was sealed. 2 years later, his own submarine struck a mine. He and his crew perished in the same sea that once applauded him. Decades passed, yet the Lusitania still lies on the Atlantic floor. Divers who visit its remains speak of a strange presence down there. A cold that comes not from water, but from memory. The portholes seem to stare back, and the corridors echo faint music. The orchestra, perhaps, still playing for ghosts. The broken hull, the plates, the children's toys, the suitcases all remain. Frozen in time, waiting for the living to return. Some believe the ship still holds secrets unrevealed by history. Others swear they hear voices when the silence is deepest. Maybe the ocean has its own way of telling stories. The tragedy of the Lusitania is more than a shipwreck, it is a scar upon humanity. A reminder that pride and progress are powerless against destiny. Deep beneath the sand and steel lies the price of haste and war. And the ocean, as always, watches. Patient, eternal, unmoved. The Titanic sank by chance. The Lusitania by choice. And that's what makes it more terrifying. It wasn't nature that demanded payment, but mankind itself. Those waters did not swallow mere bodies, they swallowed the illusion that civilization was invincible. In 1915, the ocean taught humanity what pride costs when it tries to rise above life itself. The sea is the mirror of mankind, beautiful, vast, and merciless. It reflects our greatest achievements and our darkest sins. When the Lusitania went down, it carried more than passengers, it carried our blind faith in progress. And it returned a warning that still echoes today: there is no war without innocence. Because the ocean, like time, collects every debt in silence. Every bubble that rises from the wreck is a whisper, a voice still trying to tell the world what happened. And if you dove deep enough, perhaps you would hear it. The sound of a piano, the cry of a child, the final prayer of a captain who refused to abandon his ship. At the bottom of the Atlantic, the Lusitania rests like a sunken altar, a monument to guilt, to haste, to the vanity of humankind. Its windows still resemble eyes watching upward, its corridors breathing softly with the rhythm of the tides. And maybe that's why stories like this endure, because the sea never lets memory die. The ocean is patient. It doesn't hold grudges, only truth. And when the waters move in silence, it feels as though the world itself is exhaling guilt. The Lusitania may lie buried under salt and darkness, but its story still surfaces every time someone speaks its name, with reverence, fear, or remorse. So the next time you gaze at the calm horizon, remember this. Some ghosts do not seek revenge, only remembrance. They don't scream. They don't weep. They don't demand justice. They simply wait in silence to be heard. And in that moment the past breathes again. Comment below. The ocean never forgets. And if you felt the weight of this story, subscribe to Cloaked Mysteries, where every episode is a descent into the abyss of time, where the past still bleeds, and the sea whispers the names the world tried to silence. Because some stories never truly sink.